So the topic is lessons learned from a fully agentic modernization of a React 16 app. And why do this kind of an exercise in the first place? I think there's maybe something to learn for everyone. For me, always the best thing or best way to learn something has been via some kind of a real problem. And I, as a CEO of Wunderdoc, have been wondering that kind of like what might be the approach for these agentic modernizations of legacy code bases. Many of the clients are struggling with this, that we're not talking 5 or 10 or maybe 15 or 20 years of very complicated critical applications which are just fully tangled and very tedious to get upgraded to the next level. And I guess there are many methods and ways on how to do that. And I thought that I want to figure it out. And then for that one, I have this pet app or pet project app that I did like 8 years ago and haven't really touched it, but I actually use it quite a lot. It's a simple application, but I used it a lot. Haven't touched it in 8 years. So I thought I'd give it a spin, that how I can get that to today without any hands-on code. So this is a story about that one. Few words about myself. Now the CEO of Wunderdoc. It's true, 0 professional coding in 5 years. No one has paid me from coding in 5 years. I might be in more reality, maybe 6 or 7 years. I've been pretty hands-off from professional software development. Of course, I've tinkered a bit on a hobby project every now and then, and shady integrations and these kind of things that you need to do to run business and Google Apps scripts, but really kind of like not professional development in 7 years. So that's me. I used to do that one back in the days, and now with the modern tools, I've been vibing my way back into software engineering, trying to get into the engineering part, and that has been semi-active for a bit more than a year. That's me. And of course, the disclaimer goes, this is purely anecdotal. These are my experiences, and ex-developer who's trying to get his way back into engineering with these tools. I don't have a rigorous methodology to present to you. These are my learnings, and I'll present to you in real time. But I do believe that there's at least something that you can take on from this one, which you can take on to your practical challenges in work with code base. So what do you mean by agentic modernization? So modernization means that upgrade all the dependencies from an 8 years old app. And if we think about in the world of NPM and JavaScript, yes, this is JavaScript, not TypeScript. Here, it's quite a lot, basically everything. And agentic means that give the agent almost fully autonomy to plan, execute the goals that I give to it. And the trust but verify pretty much is a thing here. So I'm not vibing, I'm really caring about the end result and trying to come up with some kind of a method on how to do this modernization. The application is pretty simple, like I said. It's a shopping list application that I use actually every single on my weekly or even daily routines. The interesting bit is why I originally did this 8 years ago was that I wanted to try the web speech kit API, which is native to Chrome browsers. It might be nowadays native to browsers that run on iOS as well, but since I'm an Android boy, because Linux, so I wanted to see how it works. And can I do it without any application to have a voice-driven thing? There's a bit of logic to group words and do these kind of things, category-based automatic sorting coming from the server, and receipt scraping, drag and drop support, and little things here and there, but essentially it's just glorified to do that with a bit of functionality. It looks a bit like this. There's a simple AWS serverless API to do certain things on the background as well. The stack, no TypeScript shenanigans, pure raw JavaScript, untamed, right? And pretty much everything that you see in the packages is most likely something that no one hasn't used in ages. So, and code base, not that big, less than 2,000 lines of code without any of the lines. And there was a bit of testing. There was some unit tests in place, ES lints and these kind of things, style lints, and actually some CI linter as well to verify that I haven't broken the CI config, but quite minimal. And but in a way, this is an ideal case for a migration exercise on learning how to go about this. It's pretty simple, logic-wise, pretty simple code base. Most importantly, it's old enough, untouched pretty much 8 years. Just like that ruin there. Well, it might be a bit more than 8 years, but if we again in the NPM land, I think it's quite close to that one. The weapons of choice for this one for me are most likely the usual suspects: Claude Code, Opus 4.5. With the model, I believe the Anthropic people, even though of course they try to sell their products, but they tell that always use the best model. It is eventually the cheapest because it doesn't do any stupid things. It gets to the point fastest. And it has worked pretty well for me. And then an external auditor to the project, which is called Rapid, most likely running Anthropic model behind the hood, but still a bit of separation there on who does the work and plans and who verifies it. So that's the mix. And then how to do it. Like what's the approach, the method, the interesting part to it. What are the ingredients and how to do it. 3 options at least. We might have even more. But the first one, given the application, how simple it is, we could just kind of like Ralph it all the way through, and most likely it would nail it. But I would not learn a method on how to approach these kind of problems and how we as a company can approach these kind of technology migrations on a larger scale. So even though an interesting try, that's not the approach to go. The second is I call it the scientist method, or the over-engineer, like take it all the way to the other end, do a big research on the internet on how this should be done, how people have done it, and what kind of harness and scaffolding and whatnot I would need to do. And that's my prompt. I took into the document, and yes, this might be actually something. And then there's of course the third one, right? Which is that the true artisan approach that use my own intuition and experience from the past that how this should be done. So I asked myself that would I really just do a high-level plan on something manually without the use of some external LLM and intelligence in 2026? And the answer is that of course I want to do it on my own. It's not that. It cannot be that big of a problem on how to get systematically via agents from some kind of a legacy code base with not that good of a test coverage to something another direction. And definitely it's a lots more fun. So that's the method that I have to present to you. Reflex, how you can supercharge your legacy code. And in the end, it's pretty simple, right? How to modernize basically anything. First, you need to have a good specification on what the application does and doesn't do, but the specification. And the specs are maybe not that important for the technical rewrite, but those come pretty handy if I want to generate more tests, kind of like more verification tool for the application. So therefore, the first step was to reverse engineer the specs from the source. Next step is get a proper test suite so that I know that whatever the agents are doing, when they're done and the tests pass and they haven't touched the tests, I'm good to go. It's done. And the final, then of course, ask the agent to come up with a good plan on how to actually do this migration, because you don't want to upgrade everything at once. Maybe there is some path dependencies on how to do it and so forth. So come up with a good plan and review it. And then finally execute it in small doses. So that's what I tried to do, and let's see how it went. So start with the specs. And like I said, I don't really need that much. It would come handy in other bigger reverse engineering tasks. But for this kind of a code base, that is exactly the prompt that I gave Claude to work on. That plan the migration of this code base to modern React. I want to kind of like first create the functional specs documentations into docs folder. And given the small code base, that was actually very simple tasks. As expected, I got 10 specs, which were all actually very thorough, very well reverse engineered, even the wonkiest logic things that there were in the code into the specs. 10 specs files, each were maybe 100 lines of detailed specs on what the application does. So now someone else knows how the application works, not only the developer who did it in his head or her head. And it's explicit, stated in the text. This actually was quite right. Also quite nice acceptance criteria. I had this very weird error corrections from Skype to Skyr, kind of like milk production and that stuff. It catched, of course, like everything with excellent detail. So the next step to generate the test suite, and this is, of course, by far the most critical part, is that this agentic development does not work at all if the agent doesn't have a bunch of tools and ways to verify that now I'm done and it works as intended. I had some unit tests, but zero end-to-end tests. That's the simple prompt. Given this one, can you start planning end-to-end tests and do those for me? And this was the biggest surprise for me. Might not be a news from you guys, but if I remember correctly, 51 end-to-end test cases with Playwright. Everything worked out of the box. Even the text-to-speech things, it was able to kind of like do good enough stuff on those complicated things as well, which are actually not that trivial. And then after this one, I knew that, okay, I have a specification, I have the test suite available, I have my unit tests, and then I have these. I'm pretty confident that whatever task the agent does doing, as long as it does the verification, it will most likely not break things. This does not include visual regression testing. It would have been a nice add-on. I did not include it, but given the simplicity of the styling and everything, it worked, but that's definitely something for the future work kind of stuff. But with this here, then I had the hardest. And then how to plan the code chases. Well, again, something as simple as that and asking Claude to really split it into small tasks in files so that later on those can be executed independently in small chunks. The interesting bit is that these are screenshots from the root README file of the plans. There's README file and then step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. First of all, it was able to create a nice kind of a path on how to do things, leave the backend latest, and then it did the React update in 2 chunks planned to do. So first to version 8, then get all the dependencies into that level, and then finally after that one bump to version 19 from 18. Also, the interesting verification part that it included into the basic plan that needs to be done for every single phase of the version migration. I did not even ask it to come up with a good verification plan that needs to be part of every single phase, but it did it. Run all the tests and build it and do that stuff. Again, lots of markdown. We know how this really goes. They really love to do that one. But again, given the relatively compact nature of the application, those were very well founded, and pretty much all of these were quite easy for the agent to execute. It didn't wander in. There were maybe few steps where it wandered quite a lot, but majority of these are relatively simple, like well, most of it. And then that's just an example of how it looked when there was the first phase was planned into a markdown, what kind of things there were. I did not guide this that much. Just a verification risk that can go wrong to guide it, and worked pretty well. Then the last phase, what to do. So I have the specs, then I have the test suite, I planned the changes into small chunks. Now, finally, ready to start doing the thing. And basically, this is a for loop where I prompted Claude to do those steps where I have that. Start implementing phase one from the certain text document, and then because I didn't run this in a dev container or with the skip permission stuff, quite a lot of tedious questions about tool usage, of course, and maybe 50% of the cases it did require additional questions on what path to take or what details to do in certain things. So the plans were not bulletproof as such. And then once the first loop was done, it had done the migration task, then I asked it to write a log on what it did, just for future reference, well, for this talk, but also kind of like to understand what happened and did it do something goofy there, because I was not always there monitoring on what it does. But I wanted to do this in a way that I'm in the control, like I can every now and then watch from the terminal what is happening, so I understand that kind of like what are the problematic cases and those kind of things. And then last, ask it to review against the latest commit from the last phase, and then of course fix all the findings that the CodeRapid found. And CodeRapid found like 10 phases in this migration. I'd say maybe 8 steps there were clearly something to fix, whether it's typos or some kind of like bad code, like edge cases where like the code wasn't really tight in every single place. And that proved to be quite handy. And that's it, basically. Everything worked pretty much without problems as such, and the method was quite handy. Like that's the implementation logs. There's some examples of the bugs or suggestions for fixes that CodeRapid found. There were quite a lot. Many of those were nicely put into known issues from the past, and this has been prior to the version upgrade. It was able to separate that one quite well. And then the project was completed and build was deployed, and then I have a new fresh technology stack, and I actually can start improving the application because I have lots of ideas on how to take it further, but it was pretty much in a dead end because it was so old technology. So thanks to Replex and its buddy Claude, things work pretty nice. But what does every project need? A retrospective. So I asked Claude that, how did it go? What would you do differently? And the basic retro things. And what was easy? And the idea is that then to store this into memory. Then when I start to work on other type of migration tasks, then doesn't need to bump into these same problems, or actually I can just copy pasta these into my agent descriptions for future, that things will go a lot smoother. What was easy was very straightforward. What was hard? Yes, some stupid things. Admitted that some things didn't go as planned, and it did wander quite some time there in chasing its own tail, or at least that's how it looked like, doing very quickly some kind of maneuvers and optimizing things, and then coming back that, okay, didn't work, I need to revert. And the the most interesting reflective part is maybe that there's like explicit thing that what not to do in the future. Definitely beneficial. What else? So what did I in the end learn about this one? Token usage, maybe interesting stuff. €20 a month Claude Pro or hobby plan was about enough to sustain the phase that I did one phase per time. But it was pretty much on the edges that it was only because this is something that I did in the mornings after I wake up, something fun, and then maybe before going to bed, I got those 5-hour windows that I didn't consume my token limit for that certain time that there is. But if I would do this like professionally, I'm pretty sure, or not pretty sure, I know that this would have not been enough. I would need to have at least the mid plan or maybe even the max plan if I would have done everything in one. Yes, so that's good to know. Practical generic tips with dev containers and a bit more autonomy on the agent. This would be a lot more faster thing. Of course, the planning part was super important. I asked first to plan things and not only plan things, but to document those for future into the repository that I can come back to those. Context management, always clear after every single phase or task that I did, that it doesn't get rotten, and which pretty much applies to the happiness comes in small doses thing, that whatever I was instructing or driving the Claude Code to do, it did very well when the tasks that I gave it to it and goals were pretty simple. And my surprise, like these models are super good and you just need to trust those. Of course, own scaffolding is needed and instructions are needed and agents MD is needed and this kind of stuff. But kind of like keeping those minimal seems to be a good thing. And what I'm looking into the future, of course, I want to see how Ralph will do this. What kind of an end result will that give? I had an idea that I would kick it start when I start the talk, and then we would look it after it, but didn't do it. But I'll see how that one goes. And definitely a bigger project next time. I know I have a method. I know how to do it. I know the tools can do it. I have one in mind. We did one internal application 7 years ago, and it's a lot bigger and complicated. Quite hairy stuff there. So I will try to apply the same method for that one. And of course, this was pretty much vanilla prompting in many ways. If there was something smart, it was make it maybe some kind of an approach and doing things in small steps. But the bigger project, for sure, I do need additional guidance for the LLMs. I'm sure about that one. And I think that's my story. Yes. There goes. So, any questions, thoughts, comments? Yes. Mike, yeah, good. Yes.
You mentioned the Ralph technology methodology, or whatever you want to call it, multiple times. Would you care to explain it to people who don't know what it is?
Yes, so the Ralph method, Ralph Wiggum loop, so to say. So basically, it's a brute force in other terms. So you just give the agent the task and then run it in a loop, return the responses from the previous iteration to the next round and do it as long as it just finishes and gets the work done. So it's brute force, basically.
How long did it take to make this?
It's difficult to say because I did it very asynchronously. I did it kind of like, let's do a bit of things in the morning, get it running there, and then I started doing other stuff. I have a day work as a CEO, so I don't have time to focus on these. I also didn't use weekends like that, but I'd say that because there were no real technical challenges, again, pretty simple context, but this should have been maybe, I don't know, half a day max, not even that much, I think. There were the maybe longest runs that Claude was wondering were 30 minutes in some cases when it clearly had a bit too much to do in one task. But the runs were maybe, what would I say, from 5 to 30 minutes that it was doing things.
You mentioned,
No.
well, you mentioned this Code Rapid.
Yeah.
Is that a platform for writing code or just reviewing?
Reviewing. So Code Rapid is reviewing.
And what did you use to write the actual code? Just the CLI?
Yeah, Claude Code CLI, Opus 4.5 and then 4.6 when it switched to that one. But Code Rapid review, yeah.
Okay. And did you make no mistake at the end?
No. Opus 4.5 and 4.6 they're quite good.
All right.
But the token usage, I mean, it's quite much given. I mean, this is not that complicated thing, and this would not be enough. No way to run out of tokens, because pretty much I did in certain cases that I had to wait, even though I did it asynchronously during roughly 1 week, morning and evening little runs to get the thing rolling.
One more, if you were to like evaluate on a scale of 1 to 10, how, like, this is probably your experience. What were your expectations? Did you expect to be this good, or was it what you expected or beyond your expectations?
I'd say it was. The thing is that I like I said, zero professional coding in 5 years. This is a hobby that I do every now and then. I don't have that kind of like a good reference and context, like how good these are really in a big, like more non-trivial, non-vibe coding context. So we didn't really have any other expectations. That I'm pretty sure that once I saw the plan that how it can split things into very small chunks, I knew that it will take care of it at that stage. And I thought that it would go pretty well, but I was surprised that it went that smoothly in the end.
So have you used the app after this? Is it still good?
Yeah, the same simple, quite crappy, but soon I will upload it with features and complexity, and then nothing works. But yeah, I have a bigger project in mind, which to go through this same route, and then maybe I will add a bit more of process and autonomy and let it do a bit more independently, and then see how it goes. Ah, 46. Great stuff. Okay. Anything else? Great. Short break maybe.
Yeah, let's take it now.
Right. It seems that we have everybody who wants to see a presentation about something non-AI here. So I think we are ready to get started with it. So let's see. Everything works. Yes. Stream works. Yes. Audio, I'm assuming, works. Everybody in the back can also hear me, right? Thumbs up. Thank you. Right. I didn't get the memo that we're just talking about AI today, so we are talking about HTMX and Hono today also. I pitched this idea to Juho a couple of months ago, just asking if I have something interesting to share. Always have. So we will be diving deep into HTMX and Hono, and I got the subtitle of a TypeScript developer's approach to SSR, but I think the better subtitle is just writing SSR code that doesn't hurt. That's my feeling of working with this tech stack. A little bit about me. I'm a senior software engineer at N8N. We are a automation company, yada, yada. I think everybody who's works with AI knows N8N, so nothing more about that. This talk is not going to touch N8N, so no more of that. I'm a developer experience enthusiast. My day job is working solely in developer experience, so yay, I found my dream job. I'm a TypeScript nerd. I really like to write TypeScript. I use some agentic tools too, but I really enjoy the craft of just writing TypeScript code. I'm a beer lover. I make beer. I drink beer. I consume beer media. If you want recommendations, don't ask me, but go ahead. I'm a web component advocate also. I have been advocating for web components for the last 10 years, I think. I wrote tooling around them, and this talk is not going to be talking about web components, but it's going to have some overlap in the developer experience side in there. And I'm also a meetup organizer, so if you ever end up in the beautiful city of Turku, there is a meetup called Audake Overflow. I organize that. It's kind of a same idea like here. We have speakers, we have beverages, we have food, and we have the beautiful Turku. Yeah, can I get a raise of hands? Who knows this guy? A couple of hands. I was expecting more. This is the Primogen. He's the reason he's a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, a professional ex-Netflix programmer, whatever he wants to call himself nowadays. He's the reason I got into HTMX. He's the reason I got into NeoVim. So I had to kind of pay respects to him. But something that I'm not agreeing with him is that HTMX should be used with Go, because I just don't enjoy writing Go. I'm a TypeScript enthusiast, not a Go gopher, whatever you call yourself. So, moving on. For the uninitiated, what is HTMX? HTMX is a small front-end library that gives you access to Ajax, CSS transitions, WebSockets, server-side sent events directly in your HTML, so you don't have to be writing JavaScript to get all of these fancy new modern features, but you are able to get them through just HTML attributes. And it's kind of it's not the new kid on the block anymore, but it's growing better and better every year, and I really love the way they're working. What is Hono? The other part of this talk is a small, simple, ultra-fast web framework built on web standards. That's what everybody says nowadays. And it works on a JavaScript runtime. You can read through the list, you can not read through the list. It's kind of if you've ever worked with Express, it's kind of like Express, but doesn't hurt. So yeah, it's a better Express. And when I started working with these technologies, I kind of immediately saw that I wanted to merge these two things together. And luckily, the people at Hono have already also noticed that that is a match made in heaven, pretty much. So, as I said, we're not vibe coding today. We're not doing AI stuff. We have to have something that differentiates us from the vibe coding meetup that we have in Helsinki also. So let's go into the actual code. Everybody's dramatic about the non-AI part. And as always in my presentations, if you ever have a question about anything or just a note about something, raise your hand. This is an interactive session, so let's not be too frugal with the questions. If you have anything, just raise your hand and get in contact. And yeah, moving on. Hono is actually like the only part that touches LLMs today is that, for example, the model context protocol SDK that is used by everyone, I'm guessing, is actually built on top of Hono also. So it's quite a battle-tested library because it's kind of in the middle of the whole boom currently. And like any live programming session that I do, it needs two things. It needs a NeoVim session and it needs a beer. So if you excuse me with that. So we have a small web project here. We have just a website that's clearly a design piece of art. We have a website that doesn't work because we haven't started it yet. So let's just start the project. What our npm start does is just runs npm run dev, and which runs beatpay. And if we then run it, we get the hello world, we get a questionnaire, and we get the results page. And we're kind of explore HTMX and Hono through implementing these features in this application today. What is our dependency stack looking like? We have Node server to serve Hono. I don't like using Bun. I haven't just had the time to look into it. So I use Node. We have SQLite 3 because what's a good demo if it doesn't run locally without any containers? We have Hono. We have Kysely. Who here has used Kysely before? Kind of show of hands. One person, three people. Nice. Kysely is a SQL library written by an amazing Finnish person from, I think, Helsinki or Tampere. And it's gonna make our SQL writing a lot easier. We might explore that today, but let's see. We have Lucid. Lucid provides us some icons, and we have a QR code library because this is gonna be interactive. Then we have just some dev dependencies nobody cares about. This is just a burial ground every time anything is demoed. We just have some types, we have some Tailwind, we have whatever the modern hype stack requires pretty much. So if we take a look at how our current Hello World page is built, we have a app.get. So we have just a HTML application that defines a route that is get. So it's HTTP get, and it's on the roots of the system. And what that route provides is, as you might see, your run-of-the-mill JSX. So we are not working with React here. We are only working with JSX, which is the notation that also React uses. In a sense, there's small differences. What we have there, we have just some layout stuff. We have divs, we have titles, and we have some to-dos to get ourselves started. And so that I don't get sidetracked, I also have a note or a kind of a checklist here to make sure I actually go through all of the things I want to talk about. So working with Hono in general, it's a modern tool, so it gives you the modern features you want. So if you change something, it's automatically updated on the browser. You don't have to be switching between the browser and your session. Like that should be a norm today, but it sadly isn't. We have our just regular A elements. We have our Tailwind. So if we want to use Tailwind, we can. Since this is server-side rendered, you might be wondering, like, how are we using Tailwind since it kind of needs to bundle through the front end and see what happens there? Well, if we look at our CSS file, it's just importing Tailwind, and we have a configuration that just runs, let's see. When we configure our Vite server and when anything changes, it just runs build Tailwind all over again. So it gives us the situation where our public folder always has the freshly generated Tailwind config fully built for us. So we have Tailwind pretty much handled on the server side, which is great because this isn't a clarity on a lot of modern libraries. A lot of stuff just doesn't work with server-side rendering, but Tailwind works. We also have icons. So if we just do let's see. If we just do let's see, here, we do a Lucid icon and we say, for example, home, we can generate, all right, we're not in web component land, so we don't use the dollar signs because there's no money in this kind of thing. We can use icons. How are our icons working? Lucid is a library that can use fonts, it can use SVGs, it can use whatever framework you want, kind of. With our system, we only have Lucid just creating a div where it dangerously sets inner HTML because we also always want to live dangerously when we're working on a live coding environment. And it's just passed a home, which is just a string, which is a SVG string of the home icon on Lucid. So we're pretty much just passing the literal SVG to the system. And if we inspect it on our page, we can see that we're just rendering SVGs. Like Lord intended. No, none of that font stuff because that's too complicated for live environments. So yeah, icons are working, everything works fine there. And we have our view here that just does something. And we have another view here that we kind of are going to explore later on. So if we go back to our steps, we have showcased that Hono works and JSX works. And then we kind of want to see what HTMX brings to the table. So as I said, we have here our loading indicator, and we had a route below here that says uptime counter. It could render the uptime of the current server, but currently it's not rendering anything clearly. How could we get this updated onto our page? Of course, the normal way of doing this in normal JavaScript would be just do a fetch request, kind of get the HTML, just dump it there and hope it works. But since we don't want to be writing client-side JavaScript because this is a server-side application, we want to introduce HTMX. And what's fun about HTMX is that we can just have a helper function here. If we just take a look what the helper function does, it just curls the HTMX library from unpackaged. So it just downloads 2 JavaScript files from the internet and puts them into our public folder. So if we take a look at our public folder, we have HTMX SSE, which is HTMX server-side events, and we have HTMX. They're both quite small. So if we do file size public, the 3 files in total are just 64 kilobytes. So literally nothing in today's day and age. And if we go back to our web page, how could we get this done? So we want to update the current onload and uptime every 1 second. I'm really bad at writing English, I guess. These notes are bad. So if we wanted to update this, we can use these hx prefix attributes. So these are something that HTMX provides us out of the box. There's a lot of these attributes, and since I really love good documentation, we can read the documentation ourselves. So if we look at what hxget does, hxget will cause an element to get issue and get request for the specified URL. So if we wanted to get the uptime counter here, we could just say HTMX get time counter. And now if we look at our page and go to the network tab, of course we forgot to put the server back on. If we go to our server tab, we can see that nothing is happening here because it's not doing anything. I love having a demo effect. All right, it's giving the get attribute, but it's not given a trigger. That's the next part. So we have hx trigger. And if we, again, RTFM, read the friendly manual, we look at the hx trigger, it gives your attribute a specific trigger for these Ajax requests. Ajax, for those who are too young to remember, Ajax is asynchronous Java requests. So that means that without loading a new web page, we can get stuff from the internet without having to refresh the whole page. So we can maybe explore the docs a little bit, what kind of triggers we have. We have click events. We have, for example, key up events. We have every 1 second. That sounds nice. So we can go back to our code and say, for example, we want to do something when the page loads. So we already get the loading text immediately replaced by our uptime counter. And if we look at the network tab, we can see that the uptime counter is being called once. But it's not nice having to refresh the page every time you want to get the newest uptime. So we can chain these triggers. We can say that every 1 second, we want to update it. And we already have interactive experiences on our web page without introducing any JavaScript onto our page, like any of our JavaScript onto our page. There's the HTMX library, of course, but nothing from our side. So yeah, we can get these. This is like the most basic situation where you might want to do something. You might want to do a request when a button is pressed. You can do that with the exact same keywords, but you just replace this with, for example, click. And you can do all of these kind of polling activities without having to actually like just fight with set intervals and clearing intervals and everything that's crap about modern web tech. And you can get all of this out of the box with HTMX, and it works on server side because we are shipping the client side JavaScript and we are just like shipping HTML from the server side, and it just gets plugged together. So next up, if we check out our steps page, that's kind of what HTMX does. And we have created our initial load set interval stuff. So that's our first thing of the list. Next, let's see what happens if you go to our mobile page. Why is it called mobile? We'll see later. So here we just have your run-of-the-mill HTML form. So if you have ever written just classic HTML, this should take you back. So we have a HTML form. It has a method of post because it defaults to get request. So we want to post some data somewhere. We want to post it to mobile/answer. And then we have just an input that says the question ID, and we have choices. Here we can see that even when we are not in React land, since we are using JSX, we can use components. So this choice is just a function that's just another like split, so we can reuse blocks of code. Again, you don't have to do React to have these things. These are built into JSX and all of these JSX tools that like kind of work with it. And we are able to create these buttons, and with some nice abusing of HTML, if you have a name and a value on a button, and you press it, and it's a submit button, it will submit that form data from the button that you clicked. So all of these buttons have the same name, called choice, but they have this different data, so it will submit the data of the button you actually pressed. Again, no JavaScript. This is literally on the HTML spec. So if we go to the voting page, we can, if we preserve log, if we press view, we can see that we sent a answer. We send a payload of question ID, blah, 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 and choice view to an endpoint called mobile/answer. And while this is nice, having a clear white page saying thank you for your answer, we might want something a bit more UX-y, something that actually works nicely. We can do that with HTMX. So we just need to kind of replace these two fellas over here. So if we take the first one and just say that this is a HTMX post. We saw the HTMX get, we're just replacing with HTMX post. And since this is saying post already, we can just remove the post there. And if we now submit it, we can already see that the content is being switched. And why is that? Is because forms are handled by HTMX out of the box. So HTMX doesn't need any extra magic to handle forms. When it sees a form that has a post endpoint with HTMX post, it defaults into rendering whatever the endpoint returns as the new body of the form. And if we go into our mobile answer, which was the endpoint it called, we can see it's doing some operating, but what it's actually doing is just returning HTML saying thanks for your answer. So it's really, literally just getting this through the wire and replacing our code with that. And that's, again, we are enhancing our web page without writing any JavaScript. We are replacing content on our page. We are having forms that feel like a modern form because it actually submits stuff and everything like that. So we have all of these superpowers without having to touch JavaScript or TypeScript in general, except for like the server-side logic, but you can't escape it all, so you have to pick your battles. All right, next up, if we take a look at how our mobile answer is actually like handling these situations, we'll soon get into the interactive part here. So what are we doing? We're doing just the regular old form data stuff, which is when you submit a form, it's not JSON, it's form data. I mean, Hono might, or HTMX might make some JSON stuff with it, but it should be form data because forms can contain images and JSON can contain images, and everybody hates forms. But if you know how to use them, they should work really nicely, and I just love forms. So what it's doing after that, it's running some kysely. Kysely actually means just query in Finnish, so that's neat. And it's pretty idiomatic. It's just getting our database, it's inserting into answers, and it's inserting values where answer every day is random viewer ID, question ID is the question ID we get from the form, and the choice is whatever we get from the form. And because we're in demo environment, we can just YOLO the typings here, so that's fine. And if we take a look at our actual SQLite database, we can see that, well, I already demoed it a little bit, but we can see that these answers are actually saved into a database with the exact same keys that we have here. So that's pretty neat, at least in my opinion. So how do we fix forms so that, because currently the situation is that when I refresh the page, I can skew the statistics because I can say that I like Angular 500 times and nobody likes Angular this much. So we can, sorry for the Angular heads, but it's true. So we need to kind of get the user ID somehow. And since we are just working with HTTP objects, we can work with cookies and we can work with pretty much anything. And to save time, I have made a small helper called ensure cookie, which just takes our request object or context, whatever you want to call it, and it gets the cookie from the user ID field in the cookie, or the user ID from the cookie from the user ID field. And if there's no user ID, it just assigns a random UID, sets the cookie, gives it a lot of time, and just returns the user ID. If you're working with authentication, do better. This is just for demos. But this should give us the power so that when we are working with user IDs, when we're working with these questions, we can find if the person has answered the question already. And we can write some queries for that. But again, I was assuming I would take a lot of time, so I wrote this out already. So we can get choice or get answer. Get answer for user. It just takes a question ID. It takes the user ID. So we have the question ID in scope already. Question ID, and we have the user ID in scope. And we have the answer here. And if we await it, and this is nothing interesting. It's just throws if you give it bad data, because again, demo, and just uses query, kysely, same thing, different language, to just select from answers. It takes the choice field and the answer ID field, where question ID is question ID and answer ID is answer ID. And if you haven't tried kysely for your SQL engine on the backend, please try it, because when we saw the answer table here, we know that there's fields like question ID, answer ID, choice, and created that. What kysely is nice about is that there's a, there's a TypeScript document that is automatically generated from your database schema. So this has all of the TypeScript types for all of your database tables. So when we are telling kysely here, I can maybe show here, we want to select from somewhere, it can already fill my tables for me, so I don't need to remember what tables I have. And also when I say that I want to pick from the table answer, and I say select, if we check this type, we can see that the answer is passed into also the select query builder, which means that when I want to write what fields I want to use, it already gives me those TypeScript types. Your LLMs are going to love this, because they are able to get the data there. They are able to validate that these types are okay. And you're able to write queries so fast. So if you haven't tried it, please try it. It's kysely. I'm not paid by kysely, but I just love that library. So we have our answer. If we want to kind of just sanity check this, we can console log it. And if we go here, of course, we see nothing in the console because we're server-side rendering. The console is on the server side. So if we refresh our page, it's in the, we're in the answer category here. So let's just ignore that for a while. Let's take this code we had, because we're in the wrong file, and go to the actual mobile, which is I shouldn't name two files, mobile and mobile answer, because those are so close to each other. If you go here and just paste the code here, import the missing stuff, and then get the latest question.id, because that's the right thing, and as string, because I don't have the time to fight this. No, it's, yes, thank you. We can see a server error, but if we now get it, we can see that this person hasn't answered the question yet, because we have undefined on our console. And if we press view and refresh our page, we can also see that we are not getting it. And that's because we actually didn't fix it yet. Somebody might have caught it. We are still have the to-do here. It's like working with an LLM. It's like, fix this to-do, and it kind of goes off the rails and fixes something else, and then it forgets to actually fix the actual to-do. But if we go here and say that the answer ID should be the user ID from the cookie itself, we can then, again, everything is refreshed in real time, so we can also try it. And now we can see that the person has answered with that data. And what do we want to do with that data? Of course, we want to, let's see, go here. And in case the person has answered to the data, we can do whatever any sane JavaScript developer does, builds more complexity on top of complexity. So there's already a ternary here to show the question if there's a question. Now we're just going to make the whole form conditional. So if there's an answer, if there's not an answer, we show the actual form. So we can do this. So now we have the form disappearing. And since, again, I wouldn't write this code in production, but since we're demoing stuff, this is all right to write these both if statements into just next to each other and make them work. So we can have here, you already answered this one, you said, and then we can just say answer choice. Again, since we're using kysely, all of the objects are also completely typed. So it has the type of every single field that we got from the query because it knows what fields we queried because it can read these fields here. And if that's not a good reason to try out kysely, I don't know what is. And now we can see that we have our answer being shown here. And now for the fun actual interactive part, which is, let's see if we have, yes, this is fixed now. Let's get into the interactive part. So introducing Tailscale. Who here has used Tailscale? Can I get a show of hands? A couple of hands, that's good, that's good. Tailscale is a, Tailscale, it's kind of a VPN, kind of a, private for VPN, whatever. It's kind of a, your own small private network for your own devices wherever you are. But what Tailscale also has is Tailscale funnel, which allows us to do fun stuff. So it can proxy our local machine into the wide internet. That's always fun. So let's hope the people online and the people here don't have any malicious thoughts with the system. And if we just open the page now, it won't show anything pretty much, I'm guessing. Let's see. For some reason it's not opening it. So if we go here, it's saying 502 because it's a bad gateway because we're not currently allowing these origins to our system. But if we go to our read config and just say that we know we are hosting this thing, it will already dispatch a lot of more IPs into a local space. But also what it will do is give us access to the web page from the whole wide internet there. And what wouldn't be more fun in a live situation than introducing a QR code? Let's see, create QR, I have the QR code, get QR code, and then just replacing this with the actual website. Did we not save the other file? Awesome. So if you want to take place in voting, please scan the QR code. If you don't have a QR code capable machine, you can also use just the website. I'll just give you a second. I'll have a small breather here. Again, I'm really a fan of just using these small libraries, these small tools, and building my own experience with those because it makes maintenance a lot easier because you know each block you've introduced into your code base, and also it gives you this kind of fun demo ability that you can kind of work with all of these libraries. And also, since I work in developer experience, my main thing is like trying out what systems can we integrate together, how can we make these things play together nicely. So these kind of projects are usually my cup of tea. So we have the Go Vote page and we have the Get Results page. But if we go to the results page now, we see that we don't have any results. But if we go to our SQL database again, we can already see that people are voting. So that's nice. Let's see steps. We have Tailscale and QR codes. So answer, remember answer, render answer, we already did that. So let's go into like some cool HTMX shenanigans in the results page. You can also view the results page from your own machine, but it's not going to be all that interesting. So I have made this small utility. I would say it's a component, I'm guessing, that you can use that will show the results. And that component expects to get a score object. Luckily, to save time, once again, you always want to have fail safes. We can get the score, and we have get score for latest question as a function. Again, picking inside, what would you guess it? It's again a QSEL query, because why not? Why would it be? It's always querying the SQL database. It's just then grouping the scores, doing some. My presentations have a meme where every single presentation has a close to unreadable reduce function every single time, just for the memes. This is quite plain compared to a lot of them, but it's still a mess. And then, since we have the score, we can pass the score into our results component, and we can already see our score being rendered here. Yes, no framework for me, 3 votes. I love you guys. And the Angular votes are skewed, so don't get disgruntled about that. So yeah, if we want to add a new question, again, I really like scripting things. So we could just like raw dog some insert statements into our questions table, but I don't want to write SQL on stage because that's hard. JavaScript is easy to write on stage. So we have a add question file on our code base. What does it do? Of course, it uses Kysely. It uses an insert into statement. And again, Kysely is amazing for this because we can say just that we want to insert into, for example, question. And when we say we want to insert values, it will already say that this is not a good value because it's missing the fields. Let's see, fields choice 1, choice 2, choice 4, and so on. So it's already giving us completion on what fields we need to have. And it's also giving us type hints on what fields we can have. So we have type safe insert statements. Type safe as long as you don't mess up your TypeScript definitions, but like type safe asterisk. And we have the insert statement here. We were able to add the question with this. And again, we could maybe add a second question. I had something really fun in mind, but I just can't remember what it was. Oh, have you bought a ticket to future Frontend yet? Again, not paid by future Frontend. Yes. Exclamation mark no, so yes. And what we can do next is, since this is just a JavaScript function, we have a helper here called add question, which just runs TSX, which just executes a node function. And we can just say add question, so it executes that function. And when we refresh the page again and go vote, we have our new question there because the logic always gets the latest question. And also, if we go to results, we don't have any results yet, so please vote on your machines. And we can already see we have some undefined here because somebody is trying to access the resource base. So yes, somebody has bought a ticket since the first initial discussions. Yes, but what's the when is the HTMX gonna come here? So as I said, we want to add some like cool HTMX into this context here, and seeing that we have time, yes, we have plenty of time for that. We want to, well, first of all, we want to get the results via API because everything in HTMX is via API. So we just make a new endpoint called app.get that's results. We can say score. We can say it's a async function and it returns c.html. HTML, yes. And we can just make it return the score. So the thing that we have before. And of course it needs the score, so we'll just take the score there and just put it there. And now we can do what we did before. So we can have our div here. Actually, this is the placeholder I was supposed to use. So hx get score and hx trigger load. Again, we have the score loading the same way we had the uptime loading. Again, if we wanted to, we could have some every 1 second it gets the score again, and it would just do this ugly re-rendering every time, every second. But nobody's going to answer this question every single second. So we want to kind of optimize this, and that's where server-side rendering comes on. And because server-side rendering is a whole different beast, I have my docs here just to help me through them. Maybe not. Let's see how it goes. So, if we want to take a look at how Hono supports SSE, server-side events, it's able to return a stream of SSEs, and where it can have the stream open right into the stream, have the stream sleep so we can send more messages to it, and then kind of keep us up to date with things. So if we do the wipe coding the old school way, which is just copying from the documentation, we can just, good old ways, we can just say that this returns a stream SSE, and we can say it returns an ID that's just date now, because that's unique enough. We can make it a string because TypeScript is angry at us. We can make the event called score, and we can just say that the data is just JSX again, like every single time. It's just JSX. Nothing here is anything else than JSX. And if we now go here, we can see our score is not rendering again. But if we go to our, let's see, our full page view, we can see if it's not, it's not getting anything here because it's expecting a get endpoint, but it's getting this SSR endpoint. So it's like, what the hell is this? So it's like, this was the Hono part of implementing this, but then we need to still have some support on the HTMX side. So on HTMX side, we have a couple of new attributes we want to use. We want to go into HX extension, X is extension. So it will say which extension we want to use for HX commands here. And since we introduced HTMX SSE here, we can say just that we are using SSE. We can say then that SSE connect, which is pretty much the same as the HX get here. Let's just remove that. We can say connect connects to score. Was it score or scores? Score. And then we can say SSE swap when we get a message named score. So fingers crossed, everything works now. So if we take a look at our page itself, we can see that it's currently polling every single time. So it's getting the score every single second through a event stream. So it's being streamed from the backend to the front end without the front end actually interacting with anything there. That's called a server-side event. So server-side event is kind of like a one-sided WebSocket. So the server is able to send data to you, but you're not able to send data to the server. WebSocket is two-way. Server-side events are just one way. And there's nuances, but that's like the gist of it. So here we are just sending the current score every time, but of course we would want to, if we have time, maybe we have time, yes, good. We can implement something even cooler. So if, instead of writing into a stream every time, we're just gonna keep the stream awake by making it sleep. Yeah, that makes sense. So the event stream is being kept awake by the stream that sleep, but it's not being sent anything. We could, of course, send like a heartbeat. That's just data is like date now to stream. So we can send a heartbeat every second just to kind of show that it's alive. And we're sending a function there because we're mistyping everything. So we're just sending a heartbeat to keep it alive. That's completely all right. So if we take a look at the code that we wanted, we have the stream, right, SSE. How could we handle these streams all in the same instance? Since, again, we're in a demo environment, we can write stuff into memory and just make sure that memory exists all the time. So we can just say that we have a constant channels array, or actually a set, because sets are better lookups. And when we get the stream here, we can just push the stream into the set. Now we are able to keep alive every single set. And also we can say stream on abort channels dot delete stream. So it actually cleans up after itself. So if somebody connected between those, you're not going to get cleaned up from the system. I'm sorry, your stream is going to be alive for all of eternity, I guess. Now we have the stream saved up. Now we want to stream these updates every time somebody votes in our system. So we want to go back to our mobile answer. So this place where we are saving the result needs to somehow indicate to the other function that, yeah, update everybody's streams because new points are just coming in. Well, this place has the data but doesn't have any of these contexts. So let's just write it here. We can just write a function that's like update score. For example, it will get the latest score again, and then it will just while I'm at it, I'm just gonna I was too fast to remove this part of code, so I'll just introduce it back. So this is just the score updating code. So I'm just making sure when the page loads, it gets the score. Yes, perfect. You can just kind of ignore this part of the code for now. And we get the score for the latest question because we have just updated the data. And then we have the streams. So all we have to do is just like computer science 101, just take the list, kind of iterate through the list with a for each loop. And we have this part here. We can just use the same code here. I mean, you could reuse the code by abstracting it into a function, but again, we're having fun. We're not having like optimized code. That's for work hours. Let's see, channels, and channel is of type unknown because this set isn't type. If we look at the type of the stream, it's a SSC streaming API. We can just copy the type there and just say, yeah, buddy, this is of type that. Trust me on this one. And then we just need to await this. So if everything went according to plan, we have this view here. And if we go back to voting view, every time we vote, it happens. And does somebody know the answer? I know the answer right now, but does somebody know it? It's because we're not calling this function anywhere. This function doesn't have a reference. So we go back to our insert stuff. We await for the insert event because we don't want race conditions, and we just say update score. And I love demo effects. So let's see. If I go in incognito, it totally doesn't know it's me again. We can see that the score is updating every single time we are making a new event and saying that we have updated that. So what's happening on this side that's showing the results? It's of course showing the heartbeat. We could just make that like once 10 seconds, but you get the gist. And whenever the score is updated, we can see that it's broadcasting the score elements. That's the results elements that we had before on those situations. So we are able to update the page only when it's needed instead of like polling it all of the time. Because when you're doing SSR, like you kind of have your server that renders everything. You don't have this like front-end fancy things that you can cache everything. So you kind of don't want to be spamming your own server. So polling is good for demo purposes, but when you have some data that needs to update, when some event happens, you kind of want to use WebSockets or server-side events. And with HTMX, all you need to literally do is just create an endpoint that supports SSE, and then just say, use SSE, connect to this endpoint, and swap when I get a message called score. So that's like, again, we didn't write any client-side JavaScript to have this happen. If you were to write this in, I don't know, Vue or React, you would have to like wrangle a lot of just typing and wrangle a lot of like state and everything in the front end. Now you just shoot HTML into the air and just hope somebody catches it. And with server-side events, you are catching it yourself.
You use trigger.
Trigger here.
Like you now have the exponent function, but could you actually use SQLite 3 trigger?
Yes, I could. So instead of calling it here, I could just. I haven't used the triggers, so. But I think like if I had the DB context, there could be like on something, and you could like add a trigger and have it update that way. Because again, the function is completely separated from any of this. Like this function doesn't touch Ono. This function doesn't touch HTMX. This function only gets a list and just writes to the list because it has a certain type and it expects a certain function. So you can have this function be called on anything. It's a like even if it was a multi-node system where like everybody is not in the same channel, you could still broadcast this through Redis or DB triggers or whatever kinds of events. So the possibilities are pretty much endless with that. And this is something I wanted to kind of test out, but I didn't have time yet, so we'll just do it live, I guess. So also HTMX has a thing called view transitions. If anybody has seen me talk, I love view transitions. View transitions are a way of like updating a HTML page without using JavaScript. Like we're writing JavaScript not write JavaScript, so that's kind of a funny conundrum. But if we just say, I don't know if it actually works with this kind of setup, or we could just say transition true. It's not going to work, I'm guessing. It's a SSE swap. So if we say transition true, yeah, it's not going to work. Let's see. If we just say this, and it actually did update. Let's go back here. And if we go here, refresh the page, we already see that it's kind of smoother. It's kind of fading into the view. So if we update this, we broke it. So yeah, these things don't always play together. This is why I still have a job, because I have I try these things together and see if they work. But what this would do in our case is, since we're just like replacing HTML, you cannot kind of animate over that, because like if you take HTML and remove HTML, you kind of are just replacing the content. And if you want to animate that, it's like a JavaScript thing or something. But if you are using view transitions, which are, by the way, supported by every single browser nowadays, you could have something like this. So this content could have like a actual live experience where you kind of see the old content fade out and the new content come in. And these both elements are just HTML streamed down the line. There's no JavaScript doing the transition. It's all built into your browser. So if you haven't touched view transitions, touch those again. Like, there's so many cool things in this presentation, but like that's also something that we could do, but not with server-side events, because I guess they're not supporting it yet, or I'm just too bad at programming to actually implement them. But yeah, if we go to the clock and see if we have everything here. Yes, we have implemented everything. So that was my short demo of like Hono and HTMX, and I am open to questions if there's any.
What are those emojis? Oh, sorry. I used to make yeah, I was curious what emojis those are when you get errors.
They're diagnostics.
Okay.
So if it kind of shits the bed, there's a fire. If it's just information, there's like a construction woman who like gives some advice. Then there's like let's see. I'm not sure. There's a lot more. There's like for warnings. There's their own and everything. It's just to keep programming fun, I guess.
Yeah. It looks fun.
Any further questions about HTMX and Hono?
If I understood it right, is Hono like an alternative to Node Express server?
Yeah. So Hono is the one powering us to create an HTTP endpoint and to return data from it. So with Hono, we could create any kind of endpoint and return pretty much any kind of data. So in this demo, we only returned HTML. But if we, for example, wanted to return JSON, we could just say foo equals bar. And if we then navigate to localhost any, we can see that it's also returning JSON. So it's just kind of replacing any other JavaScript backend APIs layer, but it's not packaging anything extra with it, like database connection stuff or migration handling or whatever you want. Like in that world, it's just providing us that, and it's also providing us the support for using JSX inside of our just regular code blocks. So like to go through the dependencies again, there's Ono, which is just our HTTP layer. There's Kysely, which is our database layer. There's and then there's HTMX, which isn't in the dependencies because we just downloaded it off the internet because it's just 2 files, which is our front end interactivity without us actually having to ship JavaScript with our like responses in JSX. Yeah. If there's no further questions, then I would like to thank you, and I hope you enjoyed your time with me.
This is my vibe code, like first real vibe coding project, but there has been a lot more stuff going on than just vibe coding, but that's how it started. So I'm here to present my own AI coding assistant, Acolyte. And yeah, let's start by doing some stuff so that we can get the demo going. So, oh yes, let's see. We can. No, it's wrong way. Hold on. Okay. And then there we go. Now we can maybe see. Yeah. So it's it has a CLI, so you have all the things. There is like a Acolyte. Yes, there is no servers running, but we can do Acolyte start, which will start the server. And let's connect to right. So it looks. Let's just kick off by prompting it. I don't promise that the result is going to be what we want, but I have a backup. So let's see. All right, so now it's working. So let's see. All right. So who am I? My name is Christoffer. I've been coding for the past 30 years, professionally, a little bit more than 15 years. Worked mostly in consulting, but also in startups and scale-ups, and worked across all kind of industries from like gaming, finance, publishing, you name it. I've been doing AI assistant coding for maybe 2 years, since early Cursor, Copilot. Now I use Cloud Code every day, Codex almost every day. And basically, I built Acolyte because I hate context compacting. It always loses all the important stuff, and it does it all the time. All right, so why open source? So basically, if you just need like a coding assistant, you can use Cloud Code or Codex, but they are locked into a certain provider. So the provider choice is, I wanted to have like, the best model for the job. So you can use any provider. Self-hosted, so it runs on your own computer. You can customize it. So everything is built to be customized. It's a 3-week-old project, so it's not perfect, but it's getting there. It's very transparent. It creates like structured logs. You can see that layer. There's no lock-in, so sessions, memory, everything is currently stored in the local file system, but you can extend it. You can store it in the cloud or whatever. And there's plans. I have big plans for this as well. And the architecture. So basically, it's a headless daemon server. So you run a daemon process on your computer, and then the client, which is Ink, which is like a React renderer for CLI. It's just another client. So, you know, if you want to create like a VS Code plugin, just implement the RPC contract and connect to the daemon, and there you have it. Acolyte has this lifecycle pipeline. It has 5 steps. First is resolve. So basically it decides which mode. Currently only work and verify. I actually dropped plan because the plan was not really a plan mode. It was like a kind of like a plan mode. I will add it later, but I need more time to work on it. But basically now it's work and verify. So basically you code, and then when it has coded, then it will verify automatically without you telling it. It will do a code review basically on the changes. Then there's the prepare, which basically wires tools. So you have like file system tools, web tools, Git tools currently, and some search tools as well that it can use. And then it runs the generate. So basically it runs the model with the tool calls. After that it evaluates. So basically it looks at what was generated and decides whether or not to accept it or ask the model to regenerate. And then after that it finalizes and then it emits the response. There's the concept of guards and caching. So basically the guards are there to block tools. Like let's say if you're stepping over the budget, we're reading the same files over and over. We're searching for the same things in the file system. So the guards are there to do this like block redundant tool usage and therefore save tokens. There's a cache for the read-only operations. So let's say if it tries to read the same file many times, it will block it. It will instead return it will not block it. It will return it from the cache. There is the execute part where it executes the tools, like the daemon executes the tools against the workspace. And then after that, it records, it tracks all the calls. It like invalidates cache when it when it does writes. So it tries to be kind of smart about it. And you can extend the guards and the cache the way you want. There's memory. I mentioned the context compaction. So Acolyte does it a different way. It's inspired by Mastra's observational memory, which is like a new feature in Mastra. So basically the problem is that always when context gets compacted, it always forgets like your ways of working, like how you want to commit, how you want to create PRs and this kind of stuff. So Acolyte basically works according to the Mastra's model. So basically it observes different parts in the chat transcript. It creates observations. And then when a certain budget reaches, then it does reflections. So it basically like writes short-term memory and then long-term memory. And so there's no compaction. There's a running context window, which like goes out when basically the more comes in, it goes out, but then it takes like notes, so to speak. There's this memory pipeline, which is ingest. So first it extracts certain facts, and then it selects what we want to keep, and then injects selected facts in the next request, and then it commits and stores these for future use. And the memory is also extendable. So currently it's on the file system, but you can implement Postgres or PG vector or whatever. Like there is no semantic recall, but that should be quite straightforward to implement on top of this. Then there's context budgeting. So basically, the thing that we care about is how many tokens all our requests to the models use. So basically, Acolyte uses this tick token library, which is from OpenAI. It's an open source project. It doesn't it kind of like does estimates, but they are not really estimates. They're based on a certain model, how many tokens a certain prompt would use. So they are like plus minus 10% from, if you use like anthropic models or whatever, it's 10% off plus or minus. And basically you can control it on every turn. So you can restrict how much memory, like how many tokens it can use for the system prompts, for the memory, for attachments, history, tool payloads. Everything is configurable. Then I've focused a lot on developer experience because this is like a very dear subject to me. So there's auto search with autocomplete, which actually corrects if you typoed. So let's say you misspelled sessions or something, it will automatically suggest the closest one, and then if you press enter, it will auto complete the right one, and you don't have to correct what you wrote. There's a model picker that queries the APIs to find the models. So you don't have to remember what the model IDs were. You can just use I can demo this in a moment. There's structured tool output with rendering, ASD-based code editing and scanning via ASD grep, which is a library that uses ASD to abstract code and do scanning and editing. There's normal like session management, so you can resume sessions, you can create new sessions, and so on. The daemon has like a Docker style output. So what I showed, the Acolyte PS shows the processes. You can run it. You can run like multiple daemons on different ports and so on. But it's all on your own computer. And there is also like first class support for skills. And so you can basically invoke a skill through a skill picker, and then it will run the skill. There's observability. So basically there is this like trace tool which outputs this kind of thing. So basically you can see everything it did. Like if you notice that the model or Acolyte did something weird, you can go in and check, like, did it hit the cache? Did it, did it hit a guard? Did a guard reject like the result or whatever? You can trace by a lot of things. Task ID. So every single prompt you make, it creates a task, and everything is scoped also by task. So all the tool usage, everything, and you can use the tools to trace the behavior. And I've used this through, like, let's say like Claude or Codex. Ask Claude to, hey, use this tool. Please analyze what happened here. Like, how can we fix this? I've also built this to be extended. So there is no plugin system, but there are clear contracts on every single surface that matters where you want to extend. So there's a life cycle, there's the guards, the memory, the tools, and the skill. So you don't have to fork the project. You can just create a pull request. That's the idea. All right, so let's look at the demo. What is happening here? All right, so something happened here. All right, let's look at that. I have some previous, so the prompt, let me show you. The prompt was implement a whoiam / command that shows the current system's username, home directory, and shell. Follow the same patterns as the existing commands, and then add the translation keys and write tests. So this is not very reliable yet. So I ran this beforehand. And basically, here you can see it added this like whoiam command here. There's a / command, it added the whoiam, some help, translations, and then some tests. And then if we want to, let's go here. So if you want one start, So if you run the who am I here, we get the, oh, that's very small. Let's, all right, so it did it. And I haven't used Acolyte much to develop itself, but some of its like more simple features are actually written by itself into its own code base. So that's quite cool, but it's not yet like perfect, so to speak. I've also compared Acolyte to all the biggest competition, basically 8 different open source projects with ranging from Aider, OpenCode, Goose, even OpenClaw, Pi. There's a lot of there's a big benchmarks document in the repository that you can go look if you want. But basically, it's 70,000 lines of source code, TypeScript, 13 dependencies, basically nothing extra. The test to source ratio is 0.8. Average lines per file is 122. That's not that much. There's one any, and it's a real any, and no fixed miss. So the code base should be quite in quite good shape now at the reception. And yeah, the only thing that remains is, hold on, let me find the right one. Here.
There's publish button.
I found, yeah, I am going to change visibility here, change to public. I want to make this public, yes. How many clicks do you have to do? All right, sorry, GitHub mobile, all right. Let's see. All right, at least it came through. All right, see. All right, so it should be public now. So Acolyte has a homepage. Oh, this is also very small. It's acolyte.sh. I wrote like a blog series of this. You can go read it if you're interested. There's I think like a 5-part. It's kind of like founder kind of blog series with the latest post published today, which is the finale. But yeah, now it's open source. Now it should be accessible for everyone. There is, I can show you one thing. All of the documentation is in the repo. There's no HTML documentation yet, but there is like substantial documentation around all different aspects. So if you're interested, just go check it out. And all feedback is welcome. Please, any questions and so on, I'm happy to answer. That's it.
I have a question about.
Sure.
So what is the website for then? Like, would you use it just like any chatbot, or you said there's a website you created?
No, this is like the like
information.
yeah, so like the landing page. But there is nothing yet. Like the MVP was to have the documentation inside the repo, because that's where developers first look for the documentation. The HTML documentation will come later.
Okay.
It's like a MVP, say like that. And I can say it's surprisingly hard to build like an AI assistant. It's not as easy as I would have thought. And the hardest part is to get it to do the right thing. Yeah, I'm really kind of like excited to see how people like the approach, what they think of the project. If people want to extend it, use it. But this is basically like all of my career put into one project, all my expertise, all experience.
How long did it take you to write this?
3 weeks. It's 180,000 lines of cumulative code, and it's 17,000 lines is the production code, and with the test it's 32,000 lines of TypeScript. But there's like a 0.63 rewrite ratio on the code base, which is quite high. And I think there is 860 something tests. Different kind of like, there's unit tests, there are integration tests, there's visual tests, and also some performance tests. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna ask about the statistics you
Hmm.
showed for a minute there. What did you base that off of? Like, did you just, how many tests did you run? I just thought like the amount of lines per code, or lines of code per file, it seemed pretty good.
Yep. I have this like in the docs. There's this benchmark. Let's see if I can get it bigger. There's this benchmark. There's a script that you can run. I have to combine the two scripts because like my project didn't used to be open source. But basically it does a shallow clone of all the competitors.
Yeah.
And then the script is here in the repo. So you can go and run it yourself.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
But like transparency is like really important to me. I didn't want, you know, to kind of say that, you know, this is how it is. Just believe me, you can, you know, go and run it yourself. And it will be even nicer when I combine those.
Yeah.
Because then you can actually see. And I did also there's a comparison as well. But these are like basically it's not a fair comparison because it's a new project. Of course it's like pristine and, you know, well engineered. Some of the projects are like 2 years old, so not really a fair comparison. But here you can see, for example, like architecture. So there are like different variations of how the different tools have taken, what approach they have taken, and some have evolved from like VS Code plugins to CLIs and so on. But yeah, there's comparison to life cycle, how it works, the tools, developer experience, and so on. But yeah, it's all open now, so you can go read all the docs. Other questions?
Yeah. And do you plan to support also local models like
Yep.
Studio?
Like basically, OpenAI compatible models are already supported because they use the same. But I haven't tried. But in theory, they are. You just point the OpenAI like API URL to the right. Point that, and like Acolyte also has its like similar config system as many other. Like you have your user config, you have your project config, and then it merges it, and it's TOM files or it's TOML and JSON. You can decide yourself. But basically, you can it will like store everything. It will merge everything. You can set it by running like Acolyte config set. Let's say model, for example. I have it here. If you go here, Acolyte. With the help, there is Acolyte config. You can do. There is like you can do config set model D5 mini, for example. This will set it for the user. You can also do project. So now it will set it for the project. Then you can do like Acolyte config, and it will list the config. Now there's only the model, but basically you can configure everything, and all the sessions and everything are stored in your home folder under a .acolyte folder. There's like logs for the daemons. There's session files. Everything is stored locally. But my kind of dream is to centralize the memory and the sessions so that you can like restore your sessions from any computer. So, and the plan is to open source that part as well. But if you want like a turnkey solution, there is like a plan that maybe I'll build like this kind of like premium service where you pay some monthly fee. But if you want to set it up yourself, then you know that should be open source in my opinion. Yes.
Can you show me the comparison slide again?
Oh yes. The comparison or the benchmarks?
Like dependency counts and everything.
Maybe this one.
Because I was just wondering, like, where did you get these numbers? Since like, doesn't Ink, for example, have like 25 dependencies built into it already? So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if like the check here has done like recursive dependency analysis on the
No, it's-
competitors and then like none on yours?
No, actually not. But it has like composed all of the monorepo dependencies together because like Pi is a really big monorepo.
Yeah. Okay.
But it shouldn't be.
Okay. Yeah. Just like trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
since,
yeah.
Like a lot of these repos might have like feature parity, for example. Some might have like
That is true.
multiple projects, and only the client might have like a smaller subset of dependencies and lines of code. But like
That is true.
here, it might be comparing like bananas to apples. Kind
Yep.
of thing.
Yeah.
Just wanna like.
No, that's
enhance
fair.
the
That's fair.
transparency.
That's fair. But I think we live in an age where you're dropping dependency after another. Because like Claude Code dropped the ink like not long ago to fix it. And I think like if everything goes according to plan, I'll also drop ink because it has been the biggest pain to get, like it's not perfect. It's better now that I use inks like static rendering. So basically like moving the interactive rows from the chat into static rows. So then you can scroll it and it won't, repaint. It works fine, but it's not perfect. It would require like custom renderer to work. Yeah. Other questions?
Maybe, can you talk a little bit more about the architecture? So you say that you have this daemon app that
Yep.
is running, is WebSocket based. How does it work with the terminal? And is it lightweight? Does it hang out, or did you?
It is quite lightweight. So basically, it runs this like background process that has like a RPC API, and then when you start the client, it connects to the server, and then it got like there's a protocol document here which is not that long, but there is some contract here that defines like how it works, like what kind of events there are and so on. But basically the idea is that you can implement any kind of client. Like the CLI or the terminal UI is just one client.
And do you have some how to run locally so that people that want to work with it?
Yep.
Something.
There is
What you need to have locally in like setup.
You
All right.
just need to clone it, then you run one install, and then if you run one start in it, it will basically just ask like which provider, and
All right.
then like in a hidden field for your API key, and it will store the .env file, and then after that you can use it. But you can also just modify the .env file yourself and add all the three providers. Like I have all three providers here, not in this, but here. There is OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google here. But yeah, this is like a very much work in progress still. But other questions?